we executed the lesson today, I was really looking for evidence that showed that they were identifying appropriate strategies that they could really talk about. They're very good at, reading through a text once and choosing 3 that stand out to them, and not always focusing on the ones that really are going to give them the most analysis to work with. And so as I was walking table to table, I was really listening for strategies like diction and allusions and the irony in the tone, rather than the strategies where, the author had used simile once or twice, or, the author had used short, simple sentences. So any students that I heard focusing more on, say, sentence structure, my goal with them was to question, to try and get them to, assess why are they utilizing that strategy, and then if they're going to, where could they go with it. On the board, I typed out for us what we have established with our AP language essays, our criteria for being able to answer those questions, okay? So we have our goal, which is analyzing the rhetoric, style, and content to evaluate the power of the text. We talked about, when we got the synthesis essays back on Monday, we talked about looking and making sure you have more than just one text evidence to support your purpose, and then your organization. On Wednesday, you looked over and created an outline for how you would answer this prompt. I'm going to ask you to take a moment, and I want you to self-assess where you're at with the understanding and execution of this prompt. So take, not in one sentence, that's not telling me enough, but in a few sentences, where are you at right now? If I was going to make you write the essay, how are you feeling with this prompt? Okay, so kind of assess your content knowledge and how you would execute that prompt.
Okay, so if I'm going to use literary devices such as simile or metaphor, would you prefer us just say, like, he uses like this specific literary device, or like just say literary device and then actually get into specifics in the body paragraph?
Do you mean like you would phrase it like he uses the literary device of simile?
Well, so in the intro we would say he uses several examples of literary devices, and then in the actual body paragraph you would get into the specifics.
I think you're gonna have more success if you actually state what the 3 are, like simile, parallelism, and symbolism or something. Because part of the goal with the intro in this type of essay is the reader, like on synthesis we talked about like attention getting and trying to do that creatively. On the rhetorical analysis, the more successful essays just get right to the point in the beginning. So like, here's the author, here's what they wrote, here's the setting, and then here's the strategies. Whoever is closest to me is gonna start, and they have 1 minute to walk the rest of the table through how they would answer this question. So basically, what did you choose to focus on in your outline, and what text evidence would you choose? How would you analyze it?
But for my thesis, I put that the strategies and devices she used were appeals to logos, personification, and parallel structure. For appeals to logos, I had evidence when she said that Americans had hunted flamingos to extinction in Florida. Personification, I guess, by using facts listing the era where flamingos were popular and emphasizing the flamingo's importance, Price kind of, to use personification, she put more emphasis on the movement and how probably pink flamingos started becoming more popular or more real than flamingos themselves, the birds. Do you think it probably would have been better to put something besides appeal to logos?
I guess you could also say like appeal to ethos in certain areas, but I feel like it's fine if you said appeal to logos because that's what she mainly used to make her argument. Like she stated a bunch of like different facts throughout the piece in order to connect her claim to the American culture.
And then I wonder if anybody put like diction or her word choice.
Yeah.
So that probably would have also been a good one to add to this.
Yeah, because like she really used a lot of good diction throughout the piece. Honestly, I wish I could use like that good of diction throughout my piece.
And it kind of ties into what we've been doing for the warm-ups. Like Pink Flamingos flashed into the 50s, so direct verbs are more vivid verbs to use.
I really like that. It connects really to the lesson of diction because like this was a good way to seeing how like by specifying and choosing like keywords that would elaborate the piece more. Like I like the word of like the flamboyant oasis because it really states and gives you a picture of what that oasis is kind of looking, and just adds more to and just another useful skill to reveal her view of the United States culture.
On that yellow slip of paper I gave you, pick someone to jot down what are one or two questions you still have regarding one of our success criteria up here for this prompt. So are you stuck on purpose? Are you stuck on how you would analyze a strategy? Are you stuck on text evidence? Aim for 2 questions you still have.
Okay, so what I do is that I say like how it impacts the reader. So like say for example you're using your rhetorical questions. Then I would say why does the rhetorical question matter to the reader? Like that's what I ask myself, like why does this device matter? And then when you think about that, then you kind of get like how to analyze it. That's like basically how you analyze.
Yeah, I always get stuck with, I think I'm analyzing it, but I'm really just summarizing it, and I'm just like, let's not do that, let's do this instead.
Or I do like both, and then I'm like, wait, that's not what I wanted to do.
20 sentences in summarizing it, and I'm like, wait.
Emphasize it, yeah.
So how to analyze, not summarize. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot.
And maybe if we could write down another one after
Yeah.
How to more clearly identify syntax.
Okay.
I probably need to go over that.
What about writing a conclusion? That's what
A problem with every time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I just rush it and then like, or it's like exactly the same as my intro, or I just literally restate everything that I already wrote and it doesn't actually conclude anything, it's just restating it.
Like you're trying to figure out how to finish without sounding like, this is my conclusion.
Yeah.
And the end.
Okay, on this paper though, I was just looking at it. For the conclusion, it says besides like just restating your thesis, you also have to do like the reflection, and I think that's where I like have trouble with, because I don't really like reflect on my examples. I think I just restate them. So like, how do you reflect on them without saying it the same way? Is what I don't.
reflecting is like, okay, so when we analyze it, we're stating how it impacts the reader, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess reflecting would be like, how does that impact, like, why does that matter? Yeah.
Okay.
So like, what was the word for it? Like, what kind of like effect would that have, like, just in general? Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to rotate to the table next to you, okay? So let's do that first, and then I'll let you know what to do once you get there, okay? So I'm gonna give you a couple minutes. You are going to, person with the yellow sheet of paper, let this new table know what are your questions, and then I want you to spend a couple minutes discussing, gathering some new perspectives on basically trying to help them with that question. What evidence can you give them? What feedback? What can you do for them? Okay, so a couple minutes. Go, go, go.
Okay, so our first question was, how do you write about diction? And our second question was, how do you expand upon syntax?
A lot of it was mocking and satirical diction, and she's just using it to emphasize the fact of how ridiculous the American tendency is to buy these things that are supposed to be all extravagant, but really aren't anything like what they really are.
So could you make that your one of its own parts of the claim? Like, let's say you have a three-pronged claim, that could be it, and then you expand upon how, like, oh, they use these, like, they use diction and stuff, and, like, you could intertwine those.
So if you were using the three-pronged claim for that, I'd primarily place it as style.
What would we write for style? Would we write, like, it's just sarcastic and ironic, like you said, with...
Well, more of the style with the syntax in focus would be the fact that it's very similar to just a plain piece talking about flamingos. Like, you know how everybody first started reading and they're like, this is just flamingos. Why are we reading about flamingos? And then everybody realized once we got to conclusion, oh, it has a broader meaning, it has actual analysis and satire.
All right, at your table, I ask you to report back any new findings, advice they gave you.
Got some interesting information from other groups.
Okay, so
So both groups told me that they use primarily pathos in their argument, constructing the three parts that they talked about in their outline. The other groups did use diction and syntax to show the familiarity the writer had with her audience, and she talked about the different colors. She used descriptive phrases, so that diction was really pathos filled. A change in mood. The mood of the essay almost begins lightheartedly in the beginning, and it transitions negatively. So she talks about the mass extinction at the end and how Americans have taken other cultures. And the group in the corner talked about the purposeless of American culture in regard to other cultures in the world, how we just randomly take and change, whether that's for good or for bad.
From our discussions and from now listening to how other people would answer the prompt, kind of getting feedback on questions you still have, I want you to take a couple minutes. How has your learning kind of changed? Or basically, what are you going to apply that you heard in discussion to the essay if you were going to write the whole entire essay? Okay, so a couple sentences. What new knowledge have you added?
And then also another important question was, how do we properly identify the purpose? And then, like, how would we effectively write about it?
Well, I think that's a big question. So if I was going to ask you what is her purpose with flamingos, what would you say?
Flamingos show how America is kind of obsessed with showing off their affluence, even though like there's always a downfall after it, like the 1920s and then the Great Depression, and then it got back up again, and then it went back down. So like when they get up, it's showing how they're so like happy to be back up that they overdo it in a way. So she just wants to raise awareness, I guess, for that. Or
yes. And what is that flamingo representing?
It represents all the wealth and affluence that they gained after the Great Depression. So it's kind of like, it's more symbolic than anything of, hey, look how far we've come since the Great Depression, because we have these big, beautiful birds, and we have these bright pink colors that like Elvis Presley had as a car.
so how would you write an effective conclusion? Like I get she said that some of the groups said restate thesis, then say like a sentence for each point, like summarizing it, and then a final sentence just to wrap it up. But I don't know how to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, it can be as short for these as 2 sentences for the language, like purpose, strategies, how it addressed appeals and audience.
What about like trying not to repeat what you said previously in the essay?
Then I would focus on the so what.
Okay.
What would you say to America to do once they've understood this prompt? Reevaluate, yeah. All right, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to take one of your body paragraphs, focus in on one of them, one of the strategies, and I want you to go ahead and write the body paragraph. So what would you write? And look at like all of our success criteria up there. So clearly state the strategy and focus in on that vivid vocabulary, the varied sentence structure, and particularly your evidence, okay? I'm gonna keep coming around to tables that I haven't been able to talk to yet, and then be able to answer any questions you have, okay? So you are writing.
I realized that I didn't completely understand the prompt. Now I do. Like,
Okay.
now I do, but like with my outline, it didn't really work out, I guess, the same way. Yeah.
So where,
Like, I understand now that you're trying to find the different, like, strategies, I guess, that she used throughout, right? Yeah, I didn't know that.
so what strategy are you focusing on?
I think imagery and diction, because those are pretty, like, they're used a lot throughout the article or the essays.
And then how would you tie that to purpose?
Like, she's kind of making it, with the words that she's using, she's making it seem like America has blown it out of proportion, I guess, with, like, especially the words she's using, it's kind of blown out of proportion, kind of.
Well, and I like what you said earlier with the almost like advertising tone, or like the cheese, you know, like almost those cheesy infomercials, like with the flamingos. I think that would be a good thing to incorporate there.
And
sir?
I am doing the syntax and her lighthearted, informal, and varied sentence structure. So I'm going to tie that to her use of pathos, and I haven't considered yet her purpose. So it would be a similar purpose to that, meaning she wants to connect with her audience and make her audience feel the same viewpoint as her. That American culture is hypocritical and often random, and which makes it volatile.
Yeah, and you're I haven't heard very many students mention, like, I mean, in a way that they're actually going to analyze, like, that idea of, like, this is kind of random, but it definitely fits in because we have a tendency to do that. Like, something random becomes so popular, it makes its way across the U.S., and Hollywood gets into it, and then it's a hotel. And I think you choosing syntax, like, that fits in really well to be able to defend that point.
Okay.
Keep going.
I like what Shanti said. She said that, what did you say? Like, it shows America's, like, lack of gratitude, or...
Yeah, like,
Oh, yeah.
I was saying it was, I'm sorry, I wrote down.
Dang, because that's something when you asked earlier about what to put in for the conclusion, that would be perfect.
It shows off their wealth rather than appreciating what they have when they have it.
Yeah. It's more about.
So, like, Americans don't learn from their mistakes. They just, like, they don't care. Right.
Because, like, I feel like they're like, no, that happened already. We can't possibly do that again. Like, we're smarter than that, and it happens
I
again.
think you see that with, like, the drastic changes that occur between the 50s to the 60s to the 70s. Like, they're very distinct decades.
Right.
So it's an interesting...
It's trying to figure out what represents America.
Yeah, because
I think that would be something you could add to a conclusion too if you were gonna like finish the whole essay. What I looked at today when I had to decide how to move them, we're on rhetorical analysis, and they had done one lesson, and I had collected, you know, we went through the process of feedback with that one, and I really saw a lot of struggles with moving from being able to identify the strategy and tie it to the purpose.